Charlie, can you hear us?
He's connecting to audio. As we
Okay.
speak.
Charlie, you're muted. No, he's muted. I don't know.
I've asked him to unmute.
Good.
There he is.
Got it.
Hi, Charlie.
Okay. Okay, let me call the meeting to order. It's now 7:02 p.m. Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. This is a virtual meeting via Zoom. And this is the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And sitting as the board at this moment are myself, Woody Chidick, as chair, Charlie Higginson, Matt Watkins, Lee Darst, Dave McMorris is expected momentarily, our third sitting member, voting member, and Mike Dickey, another alternate, is expected to be a bit late. So there's Dave. Okay,
There's
we've
David.
got all. Now we have a true quorum. So welcome, Dave. You're muted as well. I'd just like to start off very quickly with the meeting dates of October 5th and November 2nd. Does anybody know of anything that's an impediment?
No,
Okay, Dave, how are you doing on those dates? And Charlie?
I'm fine.
Dave, you're muted. Dave, are you okay with those? And Lee?
Yep, I'm fine.
Yep, I think so. No problem.
Okay, we can always change it if needed. All right, now we have a special guest today. So we're going to insert the special guest before we go to our continued hearing single and our 4 new hearings. Our guest is Carolyn Murray, newly appointed. I guess, Carolyn, there are probably many people from KP Law, but you're here to introduce yourself, I guess, in your specific kind of land use CV, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, and the land use practice, because we're eager to get to know you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and very nice to meet the other members of the board, if only virtually. And someday this too shall pass, and I suppose we'll all be in meeting rooms again in town hall. But as the chairman said, I'm one of the shareholders at KP Law. We're a firm of about 43, 45 attorneys. And all we do is practice municipal law. We represent about a third of the cities and towns of the Commonwealth in some capacity or other, whether it's as town council or special counsel. And within the last month, we had the pleasure of being appointed by the select board as town council for Cohasset. And in the course of that process, the select board had asked for a number of different proposals that also included things such as labor council. Our understanding is that you're going to continue with separate labor council, which is perfectly fine, but the focus then sort of shifted a little bit more towards your land use boards, at which point we pivoted away from a person who we thought would be a great primary contact for the town, who was a labor attorney. We pivoted to me. I've been involved in municipal law since 1994, so not quite as long as the chairman has been chair of the ZBA. And I've done everything from in-house counsel work, working for a municipality, to working at KP Law. And I've done everything from procurement to labor law to land use, which is really where I've been focused for, say, the last 10 years. I had the pleasure, I think, last week of meeting with the chair of the planning board and the zoning board, just as a quick sort of meet and greet, because one of the things that we provide to all of our clients, number one, in a transition, is any kind of training that folks might want on any sort of topic, but also it's getting to know you and getting to know how you either have used counsel in the past and how you may want to use counsel going forward. And as I explained to the chairman, I have some towns where they want us at every single zoning board meeting. There are other towns where it's only on an as-needed basis. Maybe there's something controversial like a comprehensive permit application that tends to generate an awful lot of interest. And sometimes the zoning board will feel that they should also have counsel present to represent the town's interests. And then other towns, I might have a standing telephone or a Zoom meeting with a board chair and or staff professional, say a week before your board meeting, and we might just go through the agenda and just do some issue spotting or any concerns maybe that that board members have raised during the course of the public hearings, or sometimes it might be an abutter who raises an issue that we hadn't been aware of previously, and strategize about how the board must or should respond to some of those concerns. So I'm flexible, working with you folks in any way, shape, or form that you see fit. So far, it appears that the town manager is very open to giving the land use boards whatever support they feel they need. And the other thing that is a part of this whole appointment process, the way our firm works, even though we may be a firm of 40 some odd attorneys, we set up a team for every client. And there's always a primary contact for that client. I am actually going to be Cohasset's primary contact. So whatever their questions may be, they're all going to come and be filtered through me first. There might be certain things that I look at and I say, well, that's really a real estate matter. One of my real estate colleagues is attending the select board meeting as we speak because it had to do with an easement issue. But by and large, if it is something to serve the zoning board and or the land use, the planning board, I will be the person who will be responding to you or attending your meetings as needed. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you and getting to know you and the town and your issues a little bit better. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'd like to turn it over to the other 5 members. Mike Dickey has just joined us because I did have a chance to, dialogue with you a week or so ago. So I don't want to sort of hog the light, but I would really like to open it up to the other board members and ask Carolyn whatever you wish in terms of her professional qualifications, certain experiences, et cetera. Would like to go first?
I'll say hi first. If you want,
Okay.
Matt Watkins, look forward to collaborating and working with you. I don't have any specific questions about your background, but one thing I think, and this was probably came up previously, but I think it can be helpful to us as a board as we move forward too, that, when you, whether we have to come to you to ask for some guidance or assistance, but I think one thing that collectively we chatted about in the past that is like, as you said, you work with about a third of the different municipalities, so you've probably seen a lot of similar cases, different cases, of course, as well. But something might jump out at you, and you might be able to help guide us in a right direction by providing some recent local case law or some examples of things to help guide us, because I think you'll notice we don't ask for guidance a whole lot, but I think that when we do, we're kind of looking for for your expertise and knowledge to be kind of taken in the right direction, and I think experience, and it sounds like you have a wealth of it, will be very valuable to us when we are in a situation where we have to ask for that. So welcome to the team, and that's kind of all I have.
Thank you. And just to that point, we do put out electronic updates on any sort of new cases that come along, or even new statutes. Last year with the pandemic setting in and just adjusting to remote meetings like this, or when the legislature had decided they were going to suspend a lot of the land use deadlines, we felt like every single week we were churning something new out for communities, because you needed to know, and you needed to know for a meeting on Tuesday night. You didn't need to wait a month to get the summary in more detail. and typically those types of updates go out through the town manager or to the select board. But I also have always made it a practice to make sure that, folks like Jen or if any of you also have town email addresses, and I know some of you do, maybe all of you do. I also try to make sure that anything that I know that's going to affect your board directly or just be of interest to you, that you also get it in your inboxes as well, because it may be wonderful that something is sitting on Chris Senior's desk, but if it really is germane to the zoning board, it's more useful that it's actually in your packets as opposed to on his desk. So yes, I will make sure that I add your email addresses to any kind of updates that we put out. And
Perfect.
sometimes it just might be, like a new case law, but there's a lot of talk right now about short-term rentals and regulating those. So, anything that we can help to provide a little bit maybe more context or some experiences from other communities while you consider the best way to approach things, I'm happy to be a resource.
Lee Darst, I don't have any questions, but I just want to welcome you. I think I'm really looking forward to the updates on a regular basis, and I'm glad that we have a dedicated person that we're going to be able to reach out to for guidance and to work with the zoning board. So welcome.
Thank you.
Charlie Higginson, I also would like to welcome you. We're very glad to have a specific person and face to work with. I want to emphasize the importance of working with our Jennifer Ram, because basically more of our issues come through her than would be. I hope it works even better in the future.
Absolutely. And I know Jennifer was on vacation for a couple of weeks when I first started, but we did connect last week. And, as I said to her then, I'm happy to keep those lines of communication open, because you folks, especially Jen, you start to see comments that come in on different projects in the intervening weeks between hearings, so that I imagine she starts to see a lot of the chatter, starts to see the issues take shape. And she's probably going to be the first person to pick up the phone or email me and say, we really need to talk through this, because this could really turn into a problem for the board. So I assure you I will do my best to keep my end of that conversation open and ongoing.
Great.
Thank you.
Dave, what's on your mind?
Oh, my usual pet peeve. We don't get sued very often, but when we do, in the past, cases have been settled that involves, a particular issue that was of some considerable importance to us and in the policies that we generally follow. And we would find out that the case had been settled, a month after it got settled. And no one talked to any of us about, whether the terms of the settlement or what the parameters of a potential settlement, how it might impact what our past practice was or how we view a certain issue. What's your approach on that?
I have always bristled at that idea. And I'm not saying that just because I'm meeting with the zoning board and responding to your question, but my feeling is the lawsuit is either a defense or an appeal of your decision. And it may have precedence for other similar applications in town. So even though the select board may control the funds and they may to some extent control access to counsel, it has always been my practice that if there is a proposed settlement agreement, or even if we've got an applicant who thinks that we might be able to work something out via remand, I always request an executive session with the zoning board prior to agreeing to anything like that. It might ultimately be that this is an issue where perhaps the select board and the ZBA don't quite see eye to eye on something, but at least the ZBA's perspective is going to be heard. I also find that more often now with my communities, the town administrator, the town manager, they tend to respect the zoning board's decisions and respect the reasons why perhaps you might have denied something. And I try to highlight that for the town managers and town administrators so that they realize this wasn't just a zoning board being cranky one night or saying, I didn't like the presentation that their engineer made. There's usually some substance behind it, and try to reiterate that point because there are going to be other applicants that come in under that particular bylaw, and how we interpret it, apply it is always going to be brought back, thrown in our faces, so to speak. And we don't want to be stuck with settling a case that we didn't really want to settle and forever being reminded that this is how it must be interpreted going forward. So I personally, I think the boards need to be involved in those decisions. And I know, and I can tell you that in the past, I'm certainly aware of people having a different perspective of that. And like you said, feeling as though the select board and the town manager, maybe because of special act or because of the access to the budget, maybe they feel that they really are the power and the authority to decide who settles a case. I think you deserve more than a courtesy notice that a decision has been made. I think you deserve a voice in that decision-making process.
Thanks.
Mike?
Yeah, hey, welcome, Carolyn. Nice to
Thank
meet you. I'm not the only lawyer on this board, and certainly, I'm in-house counsel for a bank. So, my practice is perhaps quite different. But what I find in my practice, I'm advising bankers and they're saying, can I do this? Can I do that? And obviously zoning's a different practice, and I certainly do not want to step onto your turf because I'm a banking lawyer, not a zoning board lawyer. But one of the things, and this is not a question, it's just a kind of the way I approach my practice. I'm always being asked by bankers, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And one of the best pieces of advice I got from one of my bosses years ago was, your job is not to tell the banker that it's legal or it's illegal, because obviously if it's illegal, you can't do it. The real issue is it's legal to do it, but it's stupid to do it. And I would just hope that, as you try and provide, assistance and guidance to us, that you recognize, we're going to say, can we do this? Can we do this? Is it okay? And what can we do? What can't we do? And I would just ask you, if only to humor me, that you say, well, yeah, you can do this, but try and, you can't tell, because we're ultimately the decision makers. But try and couch your advice in a way that lets us know, well, yeah, you can do it, but it's stupid, Mike. It's stupid, and perhaps you might not want to do it, even though you can if you want to. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And one of the things that I had said, I think the select board had asked me to kind of describe my approach or my philosophy, and I said, even though I work with a number of boards, I said, I am never going to be the fourth or the sixth member of a board trying to put, my thumb on the scale to convince you that you need to go in this direction or that direction. But I have found myself in several instances, I don't think it's helpful to be the person when asked, as you just said, can we do that? To get a one-word answer like, yes, you can. Well, that's not really helpful. But especially if I know the answer is, yes, you can, but you better be prepared for a legal challenge, because I'm aware of a similar instance where, this didn't turn out so favorably for a similar community. When I can throw that color commentary in there to tell you that there is some caution to it, I will.
Yeah, no, thank you. Now, I personally would appreciate, because that's what I try and do for my bankers. I recognize they're the decision makers, not me, but I also try and make it clear that, hey, you're sailing towards a reef here, so be careful.
Right, because the worst thing that could happen is you give them the one-word answer where you say, yes, you can do that. They do it, and then they wind up getting sued, and then, wind up getting overturned on appeal. And I don't ever want any member of the board to come back and say to me, well, you didn't tell us that this was a possibility, when maybe I might have had an inkling of that at the time.
Yeah, no.
So I will do my best.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously, that's all you can do, and thank you.
Great. Other questions from the board? Those are good observations. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think one of the things that I don't know whether I mentioned a week or so ago, Carolyn, but way back when, and I don't know how far back, we used to get a number of kind of case law updates, certainly if there was any change in the law, and there was regrettably not very much change, not enough in some ways. But in the last 5 to 10 years, it's been fairly vacant. And given that nobody on this board, I'm not a lawyer, and of our 4 lawyers, none of them are land use lawyers per se, smart though they may be, and not necessarily on the lookout for something that's really impactful. I can't give you an example, but if you run across, in particular, case law that is appeals level and up, obviously, let us know, because that may be germane. Because it seems to me so much of zoning now has become case law driven, or case law. I mean, as we all recognize, the chapter 40A, it's been a lifetime since
It's been pretty stagnant, right? With the
Was-
exception, I guess, of the Housing Choice Act last year, there
yeah.
really hasn't been much that has changed. So, no, I make it a point to do that, whether it's interesting case law or whether it is every once in a while, the legislature amends some little thing in the statute that is worth noting. And I will always pass that along to you folks.
Okay, great. Well, last call for questions. Otherwise, I would recommend that we go to our first continued hearing and then the 4 new hearings. Jen, is there
Thank you.
somebody in the audience who?
I just would like to mention for process sake that we do have some membership in the audience. The gentleman who keeps raising his hand, Mr. Ford, that anyone, the attendees, we will promote you when your hearing is happening. We have 4 hearings prior to this particular one, and I have been writing back in Q&A, and I think that sometimes that's hard to see. So as we announce which hearing, we will promote the appropriate people and move forward from that. So I just wanted to let everybody know. I know, and I know who we.
Yeah, and Carolyn, I don't know whether you're off duty when we launch into our hearings. I think of our new hearings, the 3rd and 4th are might have some issues for us, but we will see. You don't have to be here for that if you're not scheduled, but if you are.
It's whatever you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'd like you to be present at least on here, meeting number 1. You may say, not going to do that again.
Okay.
All right. So why don't we, as a board, and we have, Mike, for your benefit, agreed before you joined us on that October 5th and November 2nd both look feasible for our next meetings. If something comes up, clearly let us know, but we'll go with those at the time being. Okay. So we have 1 continued hearing, 33 Stanton Road. Paul and Danielle Carter to construct a pier, gangway, and float.
I promoted John Cavanero for this hearing.
Okay, John.
Good evening, members of the board. Just for the record, my name is John Cavanaro. I'm a civil engineer from Cavanaro Consulting in Norwell, Massachusetts, and I'm representing Paul and Danielle Carter at 33 Stanton Road. This is a continued hearing. The last time we met, we were, I think, about to go in front of the Conservation Commission, or we were continued to go for our second hearing. At that second hearing, the commission voted to approve and issue an order of conditions for the project. I met with, there's been a little bit of change administratively in the Conservation Commission, so I met with the new agent who started last week. The order has not been issued yet, but she expects that to be done soon. So we will forward that to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That is the only substantive change that's happened since our last hearing.
Do you expect, I guess a two-part question, do you expect to get that prior to our October hearing?
Yes.
Do you expect it to change the application in some
No.
way or another?
No.
The application before us, I mean, obviously, there is this.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jen, did we tentatively assign anybody to this draft decision?
Yes, I did distribute a draft decision this morning.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, all right. We'll just park that. I think, well, we'll come at the deliberation stage as to whether to park or vote on it, but
So if are you gonna leave it open just because you usually would close at this point and at that point deliberate because of the 14 days?
Well, John, you're saying it was approved at the meeting. You're just waiting on the written approval, but the meeting itself, it
That's
was
correct.
approved.
how do you feel, Matt? Should we
Yeah, so I mean, I think
close
that,
it?
I think that we could close it and then we could, just put within our write-up to the order of conditions be submitted
Okay,
to, to Jen, and that I can put something in there to just say that that it would
I'm
be
subject to
based
the
on
order.
what was presented to us versus if there was a change,
Yeah. Okay, so, well, I'd make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it, Woody.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Michael
Wilkins,
Dickey,
aye.
aye.
Okay, 6-0. Let's segue right now into new hearings. We have two related hearings at 74 Beach Street. The first of which is a revetment under 9.7D. I've got to say, just parenthetically, in all my years on the board, this is my first revetment. And
Yep.
it's an exciting moment for me, but
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's actually a first. We did
well, it
something.
may not be. I might have been,
Yeah, well,
asleep at the switch, but go ahead, John.
we did a similar project on a much larger scale, actually, at 449 Jerusalem Road. I'm going to share the screen if that's okay and pull
Sure.
up a few different graphics. If Jen would enable me to share screen.
You should be all set.
Okay, thank you. So just real quick, to get our location set, this first application is actually a joint application between two properties because they share a section of coastline that is eroding, and that is at 74 and 86 Beach Street. So these two properties front on Beach Street. 86 has access along what's also known as Keene Lane. 74 Beach fronts directly on Beach Street. The properties run from Beach all the way back to Little Harbor. And this particular application, as I mentioned, this is an application to restore an eroded bank. The project started with actually the second piece of this project tonight, which we'll get into in a little bit, to design and locate a small dock facility on 74 Beach Street. But when we started to inspect locations and the coastline along 74 Beach and continuing on down to 86 Beach, which we're standing with Little Harbor to our back, and we're looking nearly up the sort of the lot line between 74 is on the right, 86 is on the left. And what we found was sort of a continuous eroding bank along the entire shoreline between the two properties. And this is similar to the project we had on Jerusalem Road, but a much shallower erosion matter. That one in Jerusalem Road was much higher. It was a large vertical drop from the dwelling down to the ocean, and it was directly fronting on the Atlantic Ocean. This is a situation where the bank has been eroding slowly, but it's gotten to a point where it's starting to move a little bit quicker, and it's starting to turn trees that once looked like this to the left on your screen to trees that look like this on the right of your screen. So you can see what's happening to the root system, to the trees. Some of the smaller cedars are able to withstand the erosion, but it's really taking its toll on some of the larger trees. And so the goal here, I'll switch to the site plan and I'll zoom in a little bit here. Now that we have our bearings on the two properties, but now we're sort of flipping the direction. Instead of our back, we're looking obviously in a plan view. 74 is now to our left, 86 is to our right. And that picture that we were looking at was taken somewhere looking in this direction right here. So we are starting from one end of the property at 74, where there is an existing set of stairs, and we're picking up this eroded bank, and we're trying to run along the contour and the shape of the bank itself so that we're not working below the beach line. And we're essentially looking to armor and lock in some stone revetment, which looks something like this. Essentially, we'll smooth out the slope, we'll add a geotextile fabric, and we'll place large stones along the bank in a sloped manner. And the goal here is to set an edge along that bank so that it's not eroding. It's providing essentially the flood control and drainage that is necessary to avoid and stop the erosion. So what we'll do on the top side, the bank itself, this revetment is about 3 feet in width. Looking at it in plan view, it varies, gets to be about 6 feet, and it's about 130 feet in length from one side to the other, and it's about 3 to 4 feet in height. We're going up at about a 1-to-1 slope. So on one end of the bank, there is a right-of-way that provides access to abutting properties over 86 Beach Street. And what we're planning to do here is to include a small set of stairs to be able to get down through the bank so that it doesn't continue to suffer from erosion and sort of a non-navigable passageway through there. So we're trying to set sort of a cleaner pathway for pedestrians to get down to the water that have access rights to get to Little Harbor. This project did go in front of the Conservation Commission last week, and they did vote to approve the project and issue an order of conditions, which has not been issued yet, but we expect it to be issued this week. It's on the agenda for a signature on the hearing on the 9th. So that is the project in a nutshell.
Call from 658.
I will stop share and answer any questions or go back to the plan, whatever you'd prefer.
Okay, board. Dave, what strikes you?
This is basically redundant to what the Conservation Commission does, and they have more expertise than we do. So hopefully they've considered it carefully, and whatever they say, I'm fine with.
Is there any contrary points of view here? Charlie?
No, I agree.
I have no question.
Lee, okay, Mike?
I don't have the expertise of the Conservation Board, but it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Jen, do we have anybody in the audience?
I do have one question in the chat. I will ask if anybody else has questions to please put in the Q&A, as the chat isn't really acknowledged. But this is from the neighbor that Alex McKelvey. I think it has to do with 86, Mr. Cavanaugh, that you just spoke about. They have a right of way over 86th Street property to access Little Harbor. He's wondering how wide the stairs in the revetment will be for me to access the harbor.
So we've laid them out at about 3 to 4 feet in width.
And will the stairs be again stone or
Yes.
wooden? Stone.
Great.
Okay.
That's it.
Matt?
No, I don't think I have any questions. Yeah, you mentioned 3 to 4 feet high, and you said the 3 to 4 feet wide with the stairs. In regards to that question, I was just kind of anticipating. Probably his question was, maybe they drag kayaks or something of that nature down there.
John, offhand, what the kayak situation, boating situation is?
I'm not sure what that particular owner does. I didn't recall seeing any kayaks lying on the beach down there, but certainly provide.
At one point, there was a sort of quasi neighborhood kind of kayak rack that could handle 3 or 4 when Barbara Power owned the property, but that was long ago, so that may have long disappeared. But I mean, I know that she.
There still is a kayak rack on her side of the property.
Okay, but not over there. Not in the right of way.
Correct. It's over on Barbara's side where there is a set of stairs that on the 74 side.
Okay, Jen? You had your
Mr.
hand up?
McKell, he said that he's kayaks and paddle boards down. He brings those down.
Like, I'm just wondering, and like the rest of the board, I don't have any objections to. I think everything looks good. I'm just curious if it would compromise the integrity at all of the wall, if you will, if it was 6 feet instead of 3 feet. In other words, just to maybe accommodate for some more width or something like that. But I haven't studied the right-of-way access width there either, or the agreement with it. So,
John, what's your take on that?
Well, I haven't had personal direct discussions with as far as the width of the stairways, but we're happy to have that discussion. I'm not sure if that person is participating in this, so we'll, in terms of a financial commitment, so we can certainly have that discussion. This is between 2 property owners.
Yeah.
But John, if the stairs were to be widened to 6 feet, would that have a negative impact on the integrity of the overall structure, or would it just be de minimis?
No, it really, I don't see it as having a big impact.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Jen?
So it's actually Alex is a she, so I want to apologize for, but she said a wider would be better. And I know this really is more of a private property situation than zoning as far as the use, but I think her name was Alex McElvey, and she's in the next door neighbors. That sound right, John?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make note of that.
Well, regardless, we're going to continue it until next time. And maybe, John, in the interim, you could have a discussion with that neighbor or the user of the right of way. See if 3 feet is the right width, or could it be made wider and without being a financial burden on anyone.
Sure.
Okay, well, I think that's probably the only issue, and it's a good one to bring up. I would,
Either that or, if there's any, and I didn't see it in our packets unless I missed it. I mean, if there's something on the right of way itself that, would make, I guess one way of putting it is like, so that, I'm not advocating for somebody to influence what's being done on a private property, unnecessarily, but if they had it, like, if they do have a right to use that access and whatever the right of way says, if we could make the adjustment, great. But not being overly familiar with the terms of the right of way.
Yeah, this is essentially what it looks like today, just so we have a clear picture on. This is essentially the area of the right of way. So what we're trying to do is prevent this and clean this up. But I think we can work certainly with.
yeah. Okay, well, I would, any other comments, or I would make a motion to continue this hearing until next month, when we would have a draft decision available.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chitik, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
I had you in there too, Matt, right?
Aye.
And Mike, okay. Now, the next one is same address. Well, actually, it's a single address, 74 Beach Street. The client, Deborah Power, would like to construct a dock, again, represented by John Cavanaro. So John, John, would you take us through her?
I will indeed. Good evening. Just again for the record, John Cavanaro from Cavanaro Consulting in Norwell, Massachusetts. I'm here representing Debbie Power, the owner of 74 Beach Street. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, this application is solely on the property located at 74 Beach Street. This is for a dock, proposed dock system that will be centrally located on 74 Beach Street. It is sited with, instead of a conventional long pier and ramp and float that goes out to Little Harbor, this is an abbreviated system that is 12 feet in length with a 4-foot extension platform over the proposed revetment that we were just talking about. And that will connect down to the existing ground. So the platform ends before we get to mean high water and before it gets to the location of the salt marsh. And the ramp essentially will span the salt marsh over to a float that will be, both the float and the ramp will be removed seasonally. The platform will be a permanent structure. So looking at it again from plan view, the stairs and platform that access the platform itself that is pile supported will sit on the landward side of the salt marsh and above the high water mark. And the ramp will span across that over to a float that gets removed seasonally with the ramp. This too was also presented to the Conservation Commission at the last hearing, and they asked us to revise the footprint of the platform to reduce it in length and width. And instead of having the stairs, we talked about putting a ramp in that was a slightly different configuration. So we did not submit revised plans to the ZBA because we're going back to the zoning board, the Conservation Commission on Thursday night with a revised plan that looks essentially like this, which is an identical ramp and float, but the platform has been narrowed to 6 feet in width with a ramp instead of the stairs. So this, before I resubmitted anything new to the ZBA, I assumed that it would be a continued hearing so that we can finish with the Conservation Commission on Thursday. And then we would submit the order of conditions and revised plan to the Zoning Board of Appeals at that time.
Okay, John, now in your application, you have filed under Article 9, but can you be more specific? Is this a 9.7H?
Well, this is a
This-
dock.
A dock, yeah. Where,
Which is
what
a-
are we usually done on docks?
A dock is a separate application. It's a dock, it's a small.
Oh,
dock.
that's right, our dock application. All right.
Right, it's a separate application. It's not under the conventional special permit.
And John, that's both flood, what is it? Watershed Protection District and floodplain district there in Little Harbor, right? I believe.
Watershed protection in terms of the aquifer or,
Yeah, I remember because we've had a couple docks over that area, and I think they both kind of triggered not that it's much of a difference, but some are just the floodplain district, and some trigger both watershed protection and floodplain. We usually have been noting those in our
Okay.
write-ups. But I think that's the case, but we'll double check.
yeah, I can certainly double check that. Yeah, the watershed protection district that I'm more familiar with is associated with Lily Pond, and that's sort of the principal watershed protection district.
Okay.
I have a
Yeah.
question about, I just had a question about docs. This came out today with Matt Watkins and I, and so we've had this doc application for a long time and we use it, but we still have to file under some sort of section.
Mhm.
And so when I write the ads, I've been using probably 5.4 for use, but I'm wondering if there is supposed to be some sort of section for doc, or is it just, oh, David, when you drafted the doc decision or our application, is it supposed to be under some sort of section or special permit, or I just want to make sure I'm advertising it correctly. I just been
Yeah.
following suit.
I don't remember. I know the thinking behind revising the application was the standard application didn't ask for the information that we need to be able to do a doc decision. But I don't think it included a reference to a section in the zoning law.
I think there are two sections, though. Wouldn't it be 911B that the ground area coverage? I know it's almost a throwaway because, structures and pilings don't come close to the 300 square foot standard, but nevertheless, that is a standard. And then 9.7H, which just deals with, is it going to be subject to tidal action? Is it going to be subject to damage by flooding? Is it going to divert flood flow? I mean, I think the answer to all those is, well, the two first affirmative and that last one is no.
Actually, if I can interrupt for 1 second, there actually is another section. It's not under a 9.7H, but you have 9.7E, which is non-residential structures incidental to any of the
Oh,
uses
private boat
allowed under
dock, sorry.
9.5, yeah. So it actually specifically calls out. And
That's the
David, I
one.
think this is how you framed your dock application, because this specifically gets into the size of the private boat docks, not to exceed 20 feet in height or 200 square feet in total ground coverage, and that it may not impact the water quality, natural drainage pattern of any water course, and is not adversely.
Yeah, no, that's right in the money. So
Mhm.
if the
So-
application, Jen, why don't we make a note that if the standard application doesn't speak to the relief that must be granted in order to approve it, it would be 9.7E.
So I made note of that. And also all of our docs have been advertised under section 9. anyway, and also has the caveat, any further relief as the board deems appropriate. So we're good, and I'll just make that amended change to the application to get to the board for next
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the section 9 goes on and on, has little to do with docks, but, okay. Well, I think given the status of the hearing coming up on Thursday, we should continue this hearing until next month, when we can digest and take a look at the order of conditions that, and see if John, if there are any further changes to the plans. So I would make a motion to continue this hearing until next month, October 5th, whatever it is, 5th. Okay, that's a motion to continue. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, Woody Chitik, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Roy Atkinson, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay, we heard from everybody. Okay, now the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
John. The next one is 237 Hull Street. There are a couple of different issues. The owner, Chris Ford, wants to convert the existing single-family home, so stated, located in the downtown business district out in West Corner, into 2 dwelling units. Who is representing Chris Ford, himself or?
So I have promoted Chris Ford. Mr. Ford, if you want to turn on your camera. I'm not certain, when I spoke to Mr. Ford today, he didn't have anybody presenting for him, but he can answer that now. So Mr. Ford, if you could turn on your camera and unmute yourself.
He's muted and he's not on camera yet.
Yep,
But now
he's
he's
on-
not muted.
Yep, Mr. Ford, can you hear us?
I can hear you, right? Can you see me?
No, you had to put on your camera.
Can you tell me, can you coach me on that, Jennifer? I see a blue dot up in the right. Should I tap that, or? I can see the two, my head and my body, but it's in black and white. But I don't know how to, yeah.
So I don't know what you're on. Generally it would be a little video camera shape that you would click.
Well, that's a shame.
Often on the lower left.
Yeah, you might see a camera in the bottom left that says start video.
Yeah, I'm on an iPad, and let me see. Oh, here it is, start video, up top.
Ah, there you are.
There you go. Okay, great.
All
And
right.
do you have anybody working with you that will be able to share your plans, et cetera?
Not tonight, no. I do have an architect, and the plans have been thoroughly reviewed by the building inspector, by a structural engineer, by the fire department, and we've gotten all the way through the process. It was actually at the very end of the permitting process that the building inspector decided that, this in fact required zoning board approval. So that came as a surprise. We had been, I used Bob Egan as a consultant on my projects, and he was of the opinion it perhaps was not needed, but he has since, after discussions with you, Jennifer, realizes it is needed. So I've lost part of my camera. Can you still see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fine. So I see this as primarily a use issue, and it's not a design issue because the building is essentially the same. There's no change to the footprint. The only modification would be in the roof line, where we'll be putting in a new dormer on each side of the building. But apparently these don't call under requirement of relief. So the question became, is a 2-family in fact a permitted use? And just to my opinion on this is, my opinion doesn't count. But the lot next door has been permitted by Habitat for a 2-family structure. The lot on the other side contains 2 apartments plus a restaurant. And the next closest lot is we're at the intersection of Jerusalem Road, is across across that opening of Jerusalem Road. And the Plant family recently sold it, but there are two apartments there. And there are also a total of 5 other apartments on Hull Street at various locations. But can this be a 2-family? I think it's the best use for the property. It's been registered as a single family, and it's been the most recent owner had a business in there, a business that didn't really require public access. This gentleman was in environmental business, and he would go out and do such things as asbestos removal and testing for, I don't know, but that was the nature of the business. I, in fact, will be putting a business in the property. I'll be renting properties out. I own a 5-unit building in Pleasant Street, and I rent those units out. And I'll be renting 2 units out here. And my strategy, and I don't know if it's germane, is to have a mix of short-term rental and long-term rental. And since there are only 2 units, what I'm saying is I've discovered a real demand for short-term rental, people who need something for 3 or 4 months while they're building a home or something. And I'm trying to, my daughter has a building on South Main Street, which I co-own with her. And that's her formula. She uses it as summer home herself, and she rents it out in the fall. And that's very common in Situate as well, where I also own property. So I'm asking for you to allow the use. Let this be, I'm prepared to go and just keep it as a single family if you deny me. I think I'll lose some value. This was an investment for me. I don't intend to live in it. In fact, I intend to turn all of my property over to my children. So one of them will inherit the property at some point. And so that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for you to look at the environment, look what's all around me. And is this the right place for a single family home? There's no yard. It's really doesn't make much of a single family home. And I'm going to be putting a business in there. I'm also going to house my real estate business, Cohasset Realty Advisors, which is a small business. And I'm the sole proprietor and sole agent, but it's my business, and I rent property, and that's what I do.
Well, Chris, let's start off with the application itself. You say that you want to convert an existing single-family home into 2 units. First of all, according to the plans that you have submitted with your application, that's a mixed use. The former use, or the use you've taken on, is a mixed use. There are the majority of space inside the house is, or the building is a business, and there is 1 apartment, or I guess this former owner owned, but it's a classic mixed use, I would see, not a single family home.
Well, the assessors called it a single family home.
They may have,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's not necessarily binding on us because your own plans talk both in the 1st and 2nd floor about getting rid of an office, et cetera. So that tells me it's and apparently for at least the last close to 20 years, the gentleman who owned it, whom I don't know by any means, I see 1st floor demolition plan. The office is slightly more than half of the 1st floor. Go to the 2nd floor demolition plan. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 offices listed.
No, they're not offices.
Well, it's in the plan you yourself have submitted.
You look carefully. They're rooms, bedrooms, and the kitchen, and
Why are they
second
labeled
floor.
offices? I mean, I didn't do the plan. Why are they labeled offices?
Well, all right, I guess that's true. He had 2 bedrooms upstairs, and he also had an office. And I didn't recall that the artist, he was showing the previous use on that plan on stage. And then we're showing,
Well, the
Just
previous
true
use is
residential.
where we start, and, you know, I don't know whether it was even legal or illegal, but the previous use was, I think by most definitions, including our bylaws, a mixed use structure. Now that by itself wouldn't, in my estimation, be a big deal, except for the fact that as a mixed use building, it has enough square footage. It had a mixed use structure in the downtown business district. Needs 5,000 square feet, which it has. So it was a conforming.
It
From
doesn't
that
have 5,000. It has about 2,300 square feet.
lot size.
Oh, the lot, yes, okay. I'm
The
sorry.
lot. The bylaws say
Yes.
mixed use has to have 5,000 square feet. A two-family house has to have 40,000 square feet. So here we have a conforming mixed use from a use standpoint, building that now becomes non-conforming.
Well,
because
you
it-
just permitted a building next door for Habitat for Humanity, which is a smaller lot than this.
No, we didn't permit anything there.
No, that
You
hasn't even, no, that hasn't been filed yet. I'm sorry to interject with
Oh.
you, that it's with the Affordable Housing Trust and it will need to come before the board to
Oh,
ask for
I
waivers.
didn't understand that. I
okay.
apologize.
No,
I
no
didn't
worries.
understand.
Okay, no worry, but I mean, it does set up a difficult situation in that a conforming use, a mixed use, now becomes non-conforming by virtue of its lot size, which would ordinarily put it into variance territory, not special permit. If it were just a continuation of a non-conforming use, I would say maybe section 8.8 or some other section, which is a special
Did
permit. Dave, go ahead.
Did I hear Chris say that he was going to have a realty office in that structure as well?
Yes, I think you're familiar with what my office was. We had a transaction with your family. And I think you came by what was my office and what was where I was
Okay, so-
renting from my daughter. But so
So he's continuing the use, Dave. Is that your point?
Yeah, that's my point. It would be a continued mixed use, which makes this easier for us than
Yeah, trouble is, I don't
converting
see
it to a
it, I
two-family.
don't see it on the plan, but which would have to be redrawn and relabeled, but
you know, I actually registered the change of address, you know, with the town clerk. And it shows the address of my now office, Cohasset Realty Advisors, is transferring from 31 South Main Street to 237 Hull Street. And, you know, and so effectively it's, that's, you know, and my use is also renting property out. And when a property's in a rental mode, it's really a business. And so we're operating a business there, and my business is renting property. And
But if there's just two rental units and they're both residential, we consider it residence and not business.
okay,
If there's an office in there as well, then it's a mixed use property.
yeah, okay. I'm just saying my office is renting out. I have about 8 or 9 rentals, and that's my office.
well, you know, and we can get to it. I mean, I think the application needs to be recast if this is so, because it's not mentioned in the application. And I couldn't approve the application as written, but I could certainly see the merits of a mixed use continuation, which at least gets you, doesn't absolve you from all zoning bylaw requirements, but it certainly takes away a big one, which has to do with the conversion of a conforming to non-conforming use. That becomes moot.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know, how does the board feel? I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting we make a decision. I'm just saying that there is logic to what Dave says.
I think if it's just a two-family, a conversion to a two-family, it's a zoning, it's a variance issue. It's not a
Yeah.
special permit. If it's a mixed use to a mixed use, we're in special permit territory.
And I think in order to qualify, well, there are no metrics in the bylaw about what defines the second use, a business use, as opposed to an apartment. I guess it would have to be substantial on one of the two floors. It doesn't, you don't have to be occupying the entire structure. Is clearly a business, but
Well, you know, there are a lot of real estate offices that operate out of 200 square foot rental facilities. I get all the mail for my business at that location now. Most of my business is frankly is done, you know, while I'm on the road in my car and communicating by phone. And so it's, we will designate an area of about that size, which would be the business portion of it. I don't bring clients into my office, and I always meet them, you know, at the subject property we are discussing.
okay, we can come back to this. Board, do you want to stay in this point, or there are one or two other little issues I could see here? There's no, apparently, I mean, I don't mean to put
Well,
words.
Woody, before you jump to that one, on that issue, right, of I'm just kind of foreshadowing if essentially it's set up as two rental units with a small space. Like, in other words, if somebody came to us and said, hey, this is a short-term rental and a long-term rental, but the short-term rental is also acting as the business, like, I don't know, does that get messy for us, or does there have to be some sort of a like dedicated delineation within that short-term rental? I'm just kind of foreshadowing.
Yeah, I know where you're at. I mean, I would be more in the latter camp. Even 200 square feet isn't much of a business in a 2,000 some odd square foot structure. It's less than 10%. It's a
What
judgment.
about these people that are having, you know, that little WeWork place up on the plaza there at the train station, and the offices in there, people are running offices that are have less than 200 square feet. They just have a, you know, I don't know why size is such, in this day and age of remote work, the way you're doing your business, I think is really kind of, really doesn't, it's just a different issue than it was historically, the way people ran businesses.
It seems to me our focus here is on the use. I don't have any, there's no doubt in my mind that a property that's being used for short-term rentals is still a residential use. It's not a business use. If there's an office in the structure as well, that's a business use, and that makes it a mixed use building. We don't have any requirements as to the size of what a business needs to be to qualify as a mixed use. We just, our whole focus is on what the use is.
I'm okay with that.
The only other issue I saw had to do with, and there may be others, goodness knows, but I mean, I didn't see it, is parking. If it's a two-family house, as you're suggesting, or now it's a mixed use, you do need 4 parking spaces. Parking space number, it's kind of small. The one out by the street, one
Yes.
violates our parking regulations in terms of setbacks from the front and side lot lines. It's not legal. You would have to get another variance from this board to put in parking space 4. Now, you do have room elsewhere in the lot to make that legally compliant. 2 of your units are in a pre-existing garage. 2 not units. 2 of your spaces are in a pre-existing garage. That's fine. Don't have any issue there. But it's the one out by Hull Street.
I think it requires 5 spaces as well.
Because of commercial?
Yeah, isn't there the one space, if it's, you know, however many, what is it, 1 space per 400 square feet, is that?
Yeah, let me look it up. Yeah, the residential is 1.5 per unit. and you round up.
Right.
Under 7. Let's see, meeting hall, 80 feet. Offices, stores, other business establishments, one space for each 100 square feet of net floor, except, yeah, well, in this district. Stop right there. One space,
Yeah.
G. 7.1 G, at one space for each 100 square feet of net floor area. So if you have two, even 200 feet is pretty small, but plus you'd have a residence, which would need to round up to 2. You might need even 6 parking spaces, but not one in the front, in the front yard or abutting the pavement. Jen.
Does it make a difference that he's in the business district and there's on-street parking? That came up when I was reading something.
And
it's something I could-
Street.
Right.
There's
so
a dramatic amount of on-street parking. In fact, if you
And
go across the crosswalk of Jerusalem Road, from that point up to Pasquale's little store, there's 170 feet of striped, dedicated parking with no limitations. In other words, I've never seen more than 2 cars parked there. There's room for 12 cars there. And it's town of Cohasset parking right across the street from the building.
that said, the onus will be the burden will be on Mr. Forrest to prove when he updates the application. So we just should keep a list.
Yeah, that's one you'd have to prove to us that these spaces are available to you. They're not too far away from the property, and that the town, that they're allowed to be used.
They're in, aren't they in Hull? The Pasquale's is in Hull.
Yes, Pasquale's in Hull.
Well, then those are not Cohasset parking spaces.
No. I said going up to it's actually to the edge of Pasquale. The division between Hull and Cohasset is the middle of the bridge there. Okay. And I measured 151 feet going to the beginning of the bridge, not including the spaces on the bridge. And I took a photo of that and I showed my building in the background, and that it's only 20 steps from my building to the beginning of these parking areas. There is no signage which puts any limits on the parking, such as,
Right.
you can park overnight, you can leave there all day long.
What about in bad weather when they have to plow? Is there any?
There's no limits. There are no limits.
We'd need confirmation on that. We also
Okay.
would need to see that property drawn on a site plan. It's Morse would have to adjust or amend its site plan to show to the middle of the bridge of the end of Cohasset's property.
We didn't do that because we felt there was adequate parking as was, or as is, let's say. What about the 2 spaces you have in the garage and then you have outside the garage? I know up at Avalon, they give them 2 spaces. One car is in the garage and the other is in the driveway, and that constitutes 2 spaces. So there you have 4 spaces, right?
Yeah, but one of those spaces is illegal, so you have 3. And if you have two residences of any size, you need 1.5 per residence, or you round it up typically to 4. And if you have a business, you need another of at least 200 square feet, you need another 2. So you'd probably need 6 or coming close to it.
Well, I do have an alternative, and that is to keep it as a single family house. And that may be just as solid an investment. I think the town needs apartments. And I thought I was doing something the town would like to have done. That's
It
my
may
thought.
well be. Unfortunately, it isn't so much the merits of how, or is there a need for such a use, is what do the bylaws say? And that's what we're charged with applying. And I see not enough parking unless your point about out in the roadway holds. And there are no restrictions, and those we can check on, I'm sure, at town hall. But, you know, and if it's a single family house and it's been a mixed use family house, to go to a single family house in the downtown business district, I'm just concerned about changing the use. I mean, it may seem stupid.
Now you mean I can have nothing there? I can't have a single family house. I can't.
Well,
Wow.
no, I mean, it isn't that you can't, but unfortunately, our downtown business district talks about two kinds of uses. One is a permitted structure except dwellings for occupancy by more than one family. Okay, and another is dwellings for occupancy by more than one family. So where does a occupancy by only one family fall? Can anybody on the board help me on this one? It's like in the downtown business district, a single family house is not allowed. And that actually came up. Some people named the Lords, David Lord Jr. bought a piece of property.
I know it very well. I was the listing broker for the
All right.
Coopmans who sold that property.
And I'm glad,
And,
I'm
David
glad they
Lord
bought
Jr.
it, and it's
Yep.
an enhancement. I'm not, arguing the merits of it, but it did need special relief because it was a single family house in the downtown business, which was not allowed.
Yeah, it does, it is allowed by special permit.
A single
I
family
see.
house is?
Yeah, detached one family dwelling.
Where do we go for that, Dave? Help me.
That's on the first page of the table of use regulations. It's the
Okay,
first
sorry about
item.
that. Table of use, detached one family. Ah, you're right. Okay. So it is, so we'd have to, find the issues of noise, light, blah, 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 stuff. I don't see that as a big impediment. Yeah.
Okay, I have two
overlooked
options
that.
then. Going forward, I have two options. I can try to continue down this track. Maybe you should advise me, give me some advice, friendly advice, and say, forget it. You're not gonna get it. I've got a crew standing by, I got workers standing by, and I've been, gee whiz.
Well, no,
Anyhow,
I know they're already at work in the house. I mean, I went by,
Yeah,
but,
under permit. We have permission to do exterior work on the property
yeah.
at this present time. That's all. And we're
Yeah,
painting
and
and,
none of that, as far as I can see, violates anything in zoning. I
Right.
mean, it's, you're doing siding, there's a railing put on an existing porch
Right.
or something, and I mean, that stuff's not
yeah.
serious. How does the board, other members of the board feel about this?
I think the parking issue is a big issue there because I drive by there all the time to get home. And when the restaurant is in full swing, there's parking up and down, people are parked up and down the street. And so I see the parking.
Yeah,
is an-
but notice when you cross the crosswalk, right directly outside my building, right at the edge of the crosswalk, when you go across Jerusalem Road, you have parking there. I've never seen restaurant cars parked there. I don't know why. Victoria's parks there, the corner store parks there, but I've never seen cars parked along there. So it's just it's just parking that no one is taking advantage of right now. There used to be a barber shop there, and there used to be a Cohasset fire station there, and there used to be a library there. When I moved to Cohasset in 1955, I was a patron of the North Cohasset Library, and I would walk down from my home and go there. And there was a need for more parking, but now there's no need. There are no viable businesses on the other side of the street. Abadesses has moved to Hingham. The fire station's gone. The shoe repair place is gone. And so, but that, just next time you drive by, since you drive by often, pay attention to that stretch I'm referring to. And I will have the town highway department, Mr. Sestito, verify that I know they never put limits on the parking there. That's yeah.
Okay, well, you can provide that to us. There is a difference between parking outside a restaurant which is 2, maybe 3 hours typically, and an overnight 24-hour parking.
Yeah.
And as Lee brings up, I don't know what the town regulations are about plowing and things of that sort in the winter, but you're supposed to have on-premise parking. Now, if there's an exception to that rule, for the downtown, the village business has an exception, which is the town parking lot, but that's for the village business, which is not before us here. Does anybody else have, is anybody else aware of a parking exception that would allow off-premise parking for residents to meet its required?
Yeah, I think 7.2C. It says required parking spaces for all uses except dwellings in the business district for occupancy by more than one family. So that if there are 2 families plus an office in there, this exception I think would apply. It doesn't have to be on the premises, but you still have to have parking within 500 feet. And it seems to indicate that it's not public on-street parking. It's some, parking spaces devoted to those residences that are
Right.
pretty much dedicated to them.
Such walking distance shall be only over land owned or controlled by the parking generator or over a public way. Well,
It's a
maybe
public way
public way.
with a crosswalk, Jerusalem Road. Yeah.
Possible. Okay, so if it's a single family dwelling in the business district, you don't get the exemption of on-premise parking. You don't need so many parking spaces either, though. That I don't want to solve it for you as much as suggest this has to be dealt with.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you do have options, and one option is to find out from town hall just what is or isn't allowed. I don't think it's a DPW issue. I think it's probably a select board or building inspector issue.
Okay.
What do you think, Jen?
I think so. I'm happy to sit with Mr. Ford. Mr. Hallen gets back next week. We can make an appointment and go over the options and the revised, what we need revised on the plans to make them address the questions this evening. I made a list.
Charlie has got a question.
Well, when we talk about the site plans, and they're going to be redone, it says in the application that they're going to provide the names of the owners and locations of all immediately adjacent properties. The maps don't have any show where any of the adjacent properties are. So one, I'd like to have that in any. And secondly, you were talking about dormers. Where are the dormers?
You have
They're not
plans in
shown
front
on
of
the
you.
plan. They may be permitted.
Aren't they within they're within the setback? And it would be enlarging the face of some of the walls, I should think.
Yeah, I think you're right, Charlie. Dormers have to be shown on the drawings.
They are.
I don't see, they are? Could you show me what page you're referencing? There's a kitchen dormer section. I don't see a before and after. I don't know. This doesn't look like it's a dormer to raise the roof.
Yes, on the rear, it's one without windows, and it just creates more space for what will be the kitchen area at the back of the property. And on the front of the property, there is already a dormer on the right side of the building. And then there's a deck in the middle, and then to the left, there is no dormer. And we want to put a dormer there to give balance, aesthetic balance to the building. And would also give the only light window for a bedroom. That room has not been used as a bedroom in the past. What you see is the second floor bedroom left.
You
of
have an
the,
attic that peak, well, see, I don't even see any dimensions. What's the height, just out of curiosity? Of
It's
the,
well below 35 feet.
no, I'm sorry, inside the structure, what's the height of this attic or whatever it is, so-called?
Well, there is no
Under-
attic. There are standard
Oh, it-
ceiling heights. I don't know exactly.
I'm looking at Plan A110. It talks about an attic. And it looks like
Well,
there's a peak.
There is a pull down to an attic space, which I have not been up into myself personally, and
Okay, well,
but
here's another issue.
Yeah.
It's a non-conforming structure. I mean, nobody would argue that point. And the attic is presently, or whatever you want to call it, it's called an attic on your plan, is uninhabitable basically because of the peak roof. And now you're adding a structure that makes it habitable.
no, we are not. We will not be inhabiting the attic. There is no habitation in the attic at all. The area where we're putting the new dormer in the front is an existing room that has a pitch to the roof and has no window in it. And I believe it was used as an office by the previous owner. But we're going to convert it into a bedroom.
By raising the roof.
Not well.
Well, you know,
we're
I mean,
going to-
with a dormer, I mean, so it isn't.
With a dormer, correct. But it's not going into the attic space. It's just giving you
Well, I
headroom within
can't
the
tell
room.
from these plans. You know, Charlie, I don't know, to your point, I would like to see, I mean, I see elevations here. I don't see any numbers, so I have no earthly idea. I mean, the garage slab is -4. Okay, second floor is 9.7. But I really don't see the metrics here that are typical of plans we get. And it's a non-conforming building that's being expanded, in my estimation. Doesn't say it can't be done or shouldn't be done, but I don't see plans that give us the numbers, the metrics. Maybe I'm off base.
Didn't either.
What? Matt, do you think I'm off base, or Mike or Lee, or? There may be more construction going. I know that a dormer is a permitted projection if it doesn't go out more than 2 feet or something.
This is Robert.
I'd like to see a confirmation of that in a plan.
Okay.
But I mean, I've been doing a lot of talking here. Where do the rest of you guys come out? Mike, what do you think? Come on,
Come on, Woody, you're putting me
jump
on the
in,
spot
feet
here.
first.
No, look, I'm still gonna claim I'm new to the board, so.
Okay. Wimp, okay. Charlie, Matt, Lee.
I already talked.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Jen has a list of some of the issues just on the plans themselves that would probably need some more detail on to take a look at further. I guess we're typically not in the spot to kind of like suggest to you which proposal you should come forward with us with, you know what I mean? But at the same point, like if somebody has this, I don't have a strong opinion on it, but I think you're kind of looking for some direction as to should I be coming with this or that, but I think whichever plan you come forward with, we just have to make sure that it's a little bit, there's a little bit more detail on it. But yeah, I mean, not much else.
Yeah, I want to be certain, for instance, that permitted projections, which we allow as long as they don't go out more than 2 feet, are shown on a plan as not going out more than 2 feet. I'd hate to approve something and see that it went out 3 or 4 feet. Not that that's your plan, Chris, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's the kind of detail we would expect to see, and basically sign off saying, yes, this complies, that complies. But I see a lot of, I don't know if it complies a lots or nots in this plan. And I think certainly, to Charlie's point, Morse has got to extend the site plan to not only include the southerly property, the restaurant, but also the parking spaces that you may wish to use, if that's where you are going to go.
All right.
And Chris, the easement that's on there, are there any limitations with, utilizing portions of that for parking? I don't know what the easement is, but.
Well, there is some language to that effect that, the thing is, there's a change of ownership, and easements don't change with ownership, but I've seen the plans that Habitat for Humanity have, and their parking is not going to require the easement area. The past building there was a retail store before it burnt down, and it was the old Cohasset Library, and it became an antique shop. And that's where issues developed between the two buildings. And they had to come up with complex easements. But I don't anticipate having reviewed, and of course, Habitat hasn't been approved yet, so it may be another owner. Maybe if Habitat doesn't get approved, I'll buy that lot. Anyhow, I really thought with just 2 units, initially we were going to go for 3 units. We're going to turn the garage into a 3rd unit, and we backed down to 2 units just to avoid the parking issue. And we felt we were well within all parking considerations, particularly given the public parking that is totally controlled by the town of Cohasset.
Well, I think you'll have to come back and make those
Okay.
cases. But you've got to settle on a configuration. That's probably the first thing. Is it going to be 2 units, 1 unit, or 2 units plus a business? Or 1 unit plus a business,
Well, if it is 1 unit plus a business, we should be done with you, right? We're there, okay. If my business plus a single family rental,
I don't see on-site parking yet.
You don't with the 2-car garage? Plus
Well,
2 other
that's
spaces?
fine. That's fine for the residential unit. Now what parking are you going to provide for your business? You also have to have parking.
Well, it's for my business.
Well, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the 7.2, the section on parking, requires a business, a commercial business, to provide its own parking on site, typically.
Let me just interject here, I thought. I think that what is probably going to be the least difficult is to change as little as possible.
Right.
Now, right now you have a mixed-use building. If you change it to something other than a mixed-use building, you've got problems. The parking that you have, there may be you might have some grandfathering privileges there that we'd have to know more about it, but that's possible too, unless you make substantial changes, in which case you won't have. But you have so many nonconformities with the building and the lot, as far as the dimensions go, that changing the footprint in any significant way is going to run into problems as well. So, the fewer substantial changes that you make, the better off you are. There are enough bylaws here that are involved that I don't think we can advise you on what works best or how to do this or how to do that. That's not our job, for one thing, and secondly, there's a lot of complicated stuff here that probably needs some expert advice.
Okay, I appreciate that advice. Even though it's not your job to advise, I appreciate you making the effort.
Well, you're certainly free to sit down with John Hallen, the building inspector.
Sure.
He wears a different hat than we do.
Right.
And I think he could be freer to speculate on uses that would certainly avoid variances and probably avoid a lot of special permits.
Yep. I think some of the points you're raising about dormers and stuff are non-points, because the architect, who happens to be my son, he is very, very thorough, and he's very aware of the code, and he would not have created dormers, which would have in any way.
Okay, I will accept that as a statement. I just we're going to have to approve plans.
I'll have to
Okay.
have him present next time. Yes. I didn't realize, I thought we were just getting into a single question of two-family use, and I didn't understand that other questions of this nature, including parking. I thought we had everything covered. Greg Morse thought we had it all covered, and he's usually quite good at that. So there we are.
Okay, board, any other considerations or suggestions, the to-do list before we continue this hearing? Mike, you're just waving your hand, or? Oh,
I'm
you just
running
want
my
to see if the
hand
hair
through
is still
my
there,
hair,
or if it's
Woody.
fallen out during our hearing, okay.
Does Attorney Murray have any comments for us?
No, I think the board has kind of covered it. But I looked through this application myself, and although the board wants to be as helpful as they possibly can to the applicant's got to decide, what do you want to do here? And then show it on the plan so that we know what zoning relief is going to be necessary, if any. And I did also note, where was the parking? Yes, there's a garage there, but if you've got a couple of different units, looking at the application on its face, it seems as though the office is being completely demolished and converted to just two-family. So there's the loss of the mixed use. I think we really do need to see a significantly revised application packet with a clear idea as to what the applicant wants to do.
Yeah, and by the way, this may strike you, Chris, as very picky, but the application itself has got the deed recorded, in the book crossed out at pages crossed out and reinserted, and the area lot size is crossed out and with the change, and a lot of other stuff is marked no changes. I would like to see a cleaner application, frankly, without crossouts and whatever else, and no changes. I mean, if there are no changes, fine, but anyway, and the names of owners, somebody brought that up. Names of owners, boundary lines, that has to be provided. Anyway, so you've got a lot on your plate, but it's not over. It's I would actually make a motion that we continue this until October 5th. Chris, our standard is 7 days before we meet. Any submissions should be into us. Anything that's last minute is, will be accepted, but will not be really subject to a discussion at that next hearing. So the more work you can do in advance and get to us, the better off you'll be. Maybe we can, get rid of some of this speculation that we can't
Right.
answer.
Okay,
So I've made a motion to continue the hearing.
I will
Second.
second your motion, Woody.
All right, great. Moved and seconded. Continue the hearing till October 5th. Woody Chidick, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Carl Higginson, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
All right.
Mike Dickey,
Hey,
aye.
Woody, I have one more thing to add. On the site plan itself, it doesn't show adjacent properties, and we are going to need to see that.
Right. And if Chris is going to, and as I indicated, but I think we've got to see any parking spaces, public or otherwise, that Chris intends to use. We also need a confirmation from the building inspector that such spaces are available and qualify, are eligible for off-site parking in this district. I'm not sure. So at any rate, yes, but let's run that site plan more expansively per our bylaws. Okay. So that's been moved. The last hearing we have is 10 Highland Court, filed by Attorney DeLisi on behalf of the Cranes to construct a two-story addition, a portion of which is in the front setback. So is Attorney DeLisi present?
He is
Yes.
just setting up his screen. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Aye.
Okay, so for the record, Woody, as you indicated, Attorney Jeff DeLisi. I represent Michael and Mary Crane. They are the owners of 10 Highland Court. Greg Morse is our engineer, and he's unable to be in attendance, so you guys are stuck with me as your presenter. Let's see here. Let me just, Jen, can I share my screen?
You should be all set,
Okay.
Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. So just giving you guys an overview of where this is located. 10 Highland Court is almost at the end of Highland Court. You can see the lot over here and the existing dwelling on the property. The property is located in the Residence B zoning district. Let me pull up the zoning plan here. It's also in the Water Resources Protection Overlay District. The lot contains about 17,212 square feet in a 35,000 square foot zone. Frontage, width, coverages all comply with the bylaw with respect to the existing dwelling. According to the tax assessor, the existing dwelling, which is shown in orange here, is or was constructed in 1923. In this zone, there's normally a 30-foot setback, but in this case, the note behind the table of area regulations concerning the exception for the average setbacks applies to render the required front yard setback to be 23.1 feet, which is shown here on this chart. Presently, the house is non-conforming with respect to the front yard. Its closest point over here is 13.3 feet off of Highland Court. And in addition, it is also non-conforming with respect to the left side yard, which is the westerly side yard at 11.4 feet. My clients are a young couple who have lived in Cohasset since marriage, and they're looking to expand their family and stay in Cohasset. And with the real estate markets the way they are, the only way that they could possibly do that is to put an addition onto this house. The existing size of the house, both the first floor and the second floor, it's two-story house, is about 1,300 square feet. The footprint is about 1,066 square feet. The only area of the lot that they can feasibly construct the addition really is to kind of go in this direction to the right. And so they do not propose to build any closer to Highland Court than present. In this case, the closest point of the area of the addition, which is shown in green, would be about 13.7 feet. So about a half a foot further setback from Highland Court than their existing dwelling. The concept would be a 2-story addition, which adds a garage and master bedroom and a space for a remote office and some family room area in that location. The existing garage over here would be raised, and the location of the relocated garage would be in the front of the building over here. With respect to height, let me see if I can pull up our facade calcs. This is a good one here. With respect to height, what our engineer has done is they took the average grade around the existing house and the proposed house and determined it to be 103.1 feet. They took that at 9 different points, 10 feet from the pre-construction foundation. The height, as you can see here, is well within your requirements. I mean, just the ridge to the garage slab is only not even 26 feet. So we don't have any issues there. With respect to the facade calculations, I'm going to jump to this drawing here, which is sheet A9. This sheet actually underwent a revision from the sheet that was sent into you with the application. What occurred initially was that this line right here is the setback line. With respect to the calculations in your application, they were higher. And the reason is because the house designer was unaware of the exception to the front yard setback. And so she originally calculated it to be to the 30-foot line, when in actuality it should be to the 23.1.
Yeah.
And so that actually resulted, this area here that's crosshatched in blue is the existing non-conforming area. In this crosshatched area over here in pink or red is the proposed facade non-conforming area. And those calculations are 250 feet and 514 feet respectively. And so essentially under section 8.7, we're really only talking about the area that's in the non-conforming setback that's being changed, and that's right here, 8.7B. And so we're requesting a special permit of not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood with respect to that portion of the building. I will note that because we're in the overlay zoning district for the water resources protection, we're not in a zone A, we're not in a zone 2, we're not proposing any proposed uses that would trigger either prohibited uses or special permit uses that would trigger the need to even get a special permit. The threshold of 40%, the maximum or greater of 40% or 2,500 square feet being rendered impermeable under section 14 is not applicable here. So that's pretty much the entire application. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Have the neighbors commented or been shown the plans?
I'm not certain whether the neighbors have commented or been shown the plans. I don't know, Lee.
This is a pretty congested neighborhood. You certainly would be well advised to ferret out any issues neighbors may have before we go terribly far. You know, I go ahead. So to answer Lee, I think
I'm actually being corrected in real time on my other device, and that the neighbors have seen the plans.
okay, do we have any letters or emails from the neighbors?
I haven't seen any.
Jan, have you seen anything?
I have not.
No?
Nope, I have not.
You know, this may seem picky. It's really a small point. I'm looking at the existing single-family dwelling in orange and that 13-foot 3-inch line. Some of that porch is covered. It's a building. You may remember that issue from a month or 2 or 3 ago.
Mhm.
And some of it is uncovered. It's really more of a landing and to stairs. Does that 13.3 hit the covered porch, the porch that we wouldn't argue is a building and is appropriate?
That's correct, Woody.
Or not? Well, I put words in your mouth. I mean,
No, that would have been the answer, because that is the answer. It's measured to the closest point of the covered portion of the porch.
okay. Typical of a lot of the plans we get, not typical of this one unless I missed something, are the 4 elevations. You know, typically we get 4 elevations, or at least the, in this case, I guess it would only be the, well, I'm sorry, we're moving around.
Let's see here.
What, I may have just missed this. What sheet is this?
So we're looking at sheet A6. There's
Indeed. Yeah, I couldn't tell what it, if this was all new, what's new and what isn't.
yeah, so
I don't see any
here-
cross hatching or coloring or anything.
Yeah, so over here you can see the left side elevation, looking at it from the left or from the west, looking kind of west to east. You can
Down
see
the street or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Looking towards the end of the road.
Right.
If you're standing along the side of the house, you can see the crosshatch area here in blue with existing, and then in red with proposed. Let me see here if we have. I know I saw it from the opposite angle. Oh, we have it here on the front. Obviously, the entirety of the addition is, the front facade of the addition is within the non-conforming setback. And I know I saw it from the right side. Let's see if I can find it for you, Woody.
I must have just, I don't know, I had a little difficulty, but it could be just me. Anyway, how about,
I think you're pretty used to reviewing these plans. But so at least you might be right. I don't see the right elevation. I could have sworn I looked at it earlier today. So I'm going to give it one more once over here.
can one of my colleagues opine on this? Was I the only one that had a little difficulty kind of understanding what's new and what isn't?
I did too. And again, a note on the site plan, the surrounding buildings are not indicated. And that's a factor in any decision whether it this is affects the neighborhood.
Well, the one to the west, this Bahena.
Yeah.
is shown.
But of
then it
course, the
looks like
street,
this-
which is facing where most of the new non-conforming will exist, are not shown.
Oh, you mean you'd like to see those, the abutters across the street?
Yeah, well, yes.
I get you. They're not shown here. Yes, it's just the contiguous neighbors of the whatever. The Bahanas and apparently Spirito.
Woody, the right side elevation was snuck in on sheet A3 to the left over here. So that's, you can't see the existing non-conforming because it's,
Well, you know what? My
Here.
packet, so you won't believe this, but my packet doesn't have an A3.
Yeah, we don't have that.
oh, really?
We go A1, A2, A4.
I have a blank sheet of paper where A3 would be.
I have a blank sheet also.
I'm just gonna stop my share for a second, and I just want to make sure that that was submitted. It might just be, or at least we thought we submitted it.
You may have. Jen can answer the question. Jen, do you have A3?
I don't put together the packets. They come put together.
Mine had a blank sheet, but I didn't give it much thought other than the fact that.
Here.
the
So this
machine-
is my-
so-
This is my packet not taken apart. I looked at it on it electronically. I use the electronic version. More than the
So Woody,
paper.
So there is an
digital file
A3
that we
out there.
submitted definitely had it.
Sure, I
so-
don't doubt it, but.
Yeah, if it didn't
You
come
certainly would-
through, it could, I might, I'm sure it would have been an issue on our end.
Yeah,
can
I have a
provide
blank,
that.
and I just opened mine up, Jeff, and see, it came blank.
Okay,
I use the electronic when I go because I can blow it up.
yeah.
Okay, now, what questions does the board have of Jeff and the applicant? That's one, A3.
Do you have any commentary on, the detrimental to the neighborhood piece of it, whether it's, how the current and proposed, footprint fits into the, not just the abutting neighbor or two, but kind of the neighborhood overall?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is kind of an odd, number one, the existing house location on the lot is kind of stuffed all the way to the left, front left corner, so to speak. And there's a decent amount of area to the right of the house. So it's not gonna, it's not gonna have the feel of looking kind of crammed, if it were kind of in the center of the lot. Also, it is kind of interesting that the existing house, and therefore the addition that would be put onto it, is not actually parallel with the street line. And so it kind of steps back from the street as the street goes on, even though it's kind of, they're symmetrical with one another, that the orientation of the house is kind of rotated on the lot. And I think that that's a benefit in this circumstance, because it's not as if it's the entire house kind of hanging at the same distance from the street. So, and then also with respect to the neighborhood, I mean, anytime that we're talking about, is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what is there now, you look at the neighborhood. And as Woody points out, it's kind of a crammed neighborhood, except for this lot and the lot across the street. I don't really see any impact on 20 Highland Court, which actually has a small encroachment over here. And certainly there's no impact on the left side of the house or over here. And this is a very kind of bucolic country little path of a road. Not many people even know that it's there. So I really don't see much in the way of any impact. As far as municipal services are concerned, it's already town sewer. So that, I think that would be my initial response.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff, what is across the street from it?
Meeting over here?
Actually,
Well,
not
right,
sharing.
right where the.
Oh,
where
I'm
the
sorry.
road-
Did I take you guys off screen share?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
we've
course,
been
and I'm-
able to, we've had an extensive look at you, Jeff, but
Here I am.
which is
All right,
always,
sorry about
always a
that.
pleasure, but
Here we go over here.
number 17, I think, Dave is referencing.
Number 17
Is that
over
right,
here.
Dave?
Yes.
So I was just saying in this location down here, you know, things are quite crammed, and up here, this is very crammed. But this lot and the lot across the street actually have, you know, some area to work with, and you can kind of see the orientation of the building. So you know, in addition over here, you know, this portion of the house is where the existing garage is, and that's going to be raised. And then if you guys grant relief, would be, you know, the addition would kind of come like that. So it doesn't really seem like there's really any effect, let alone a substantial detriment. And I'm sorry it was explaining that with my screen off. I anticipated that you'd want to see those facades and calculations, Woody. So even though the application doesn't technically require it, I kind of was in the air. My practice is that if it's not necessary, I'm not providing it unless I think that you want it. And so we provided it, and even though it might be difficult to find the different elevations and crosshatched areas, they're all there, obviously, with the exception of sheet A3, which is missing. But again, sheet A3, you know, this is it here, so you can see it showing from the left elevation, and it's showing.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty standard stuff for us, and it was what I was looking for and didn't see. I didn't check the sheet number. If I had realized A3 was missing, that I would have had a quick answer, but I didn't.
Basically, Jeff, you got those calculations to us one meeting earlier than usual.
I was hoping that I can get it closed, you know, get it closed, and that was wishful thinking.
I think we're gonna have to continue it for A3 and also Charlie's brought a point up about number, whatever it is, 17 to show it, but that metric, not metric, the visual you had, I think does show pretty well. I don't know, Charlie, would that satisfy you or not? The what's that from the assessors?
This visual here, I know a GIS map was similar to this exact map, was submitted with the application. Do you have that, Jen?
I will look. I have a lot of paper right now. But
I'm looking quickly on, oh, damn it, I do have it. I do have it. It was in the little addendum there in back of the land in Cohasset from 1922, the survey, and then there is this GIS map. It isn't labeled, but nevertheless, it is what he's showing there. I don't know, Charlie, would that satisfy your request or not?
Yes, it would. I
Oh.
hadn't seen this plan before. My only other question on this would be, why don't they go further to the northwest, where the proposed open deck is, and therefore they wouldn't have to have any all of this building in the setback.
Yeah, I asked the same question. It really has to do with the floor plan, Charlie. If you were to kind of push the addition back into this area here, what you're gonna see, it's the two responses that came to me were where the floor plan gets a little funky, but also the aesthetics of the front facade of the building as well. You know, the architect in this situation was attempting to kind of work with the existing building, and she was just trying to get a more natural feel of what the building would, you know, kind of flow, how it would flow naturally. But that's really the answer to the question. It's you know, when we were looking at the amount of the building within the non-conforming setback, you know, this is what we were seeing. And so it really seemed like I don't know, I don't want to be cavalier with your bylaw, but a little harmless, so to speak. I recognize the concept of zoning, which is to seek to minimize nonconformities. But in this case, you know, we have a nonconformity that we can work with, and because the orientation of the road and the way the road kind of goes away from the building, it seemed fairly minimal.
Other questions the board may have before we find out if there's anybody in the audience? We know there's one submission we need to see. Jen, do we have anybody queued up?
We do not, Woody.
So just to make sure we're on the same page, Woody, I think I heard, Charlie, that you're good with this plan and that you have this in your packet. And so what I'm charged with is to get you the revised sheet A3 and the revised calculations based upon the actual
Right.
average setback and the nonconformities within it. Okay.
Right, so that we have a permanent record as opposed to, you know, crossouts and other things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the issues, and I know it's not your issue, but one of the issues is that, you know, if we're looking at a decision in November as opposed to October, the difference is fairly significant with respect to foundations. So,
Yeah, we haven't decided. Certainly, we're going to continue, as is our custom.
mhm.
And we may continue with the draft decision
Okay.
in October. I mean, we haven't talked about it.
I know. That's what I was attempting to encourage.
But you would like us to
Yeah.
seriously consider that.
Yep.
Okay.
I would like to see the volume increase in the set within the front setback. Not only the face, but also the volume.
Which again is a pretty standard request this board has. Should be easy for the architect. Okay, are there other questions the board may have before we continue this hearing? We'll make assignments in a bit. No other questions? I would make a motion. We continue this until hearing until October 5th for the purpose of receiving the submissions or the alterations as described and requested, and to review a draft decision.
I'll second the motion.
It'll be a continued open hearing as of October or in October. Okay, moved and seconded. Woody Chidick, aye.
Doris, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Higginson, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay, we're all on board. We have, so that ends that. We have
Thank you.
one deliberation tonight, the Carter's Pier Gangway and Float that Matt has drafted. Matt, you're getting awfully good at this. Questions, Matt? I mean, Matt, any issues jump out at you when you were drafting this decision?
No, I think it was pretty straightforward. I mean, this location has, you know, about 5 docks that are, adjacent to it in the neighborhood. It fits the, the footprint of those docks. And then when we take a look at the criteria of height and, square footage of ground coverage and the fact that it's being used for private use, it checked all the boxes. So I didn't see any issues or kind of big concerns. I think, the pier itself is, I mean, some of the ones we've seen lately only have, a couple of pilings that are within our jurisdiction. This one happens to have more, but still nowhere near the square footage of coverage that would trigger anything. So I think we just, put together the facts, and I didn't see any issues with it. So I drafted the decision to approve the special permit.
Okay, other board members, comments on Matt's decision? Any alterations or adjustments?
I agreed with it, Woody.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to accept the decision as written by Matt Watkins on 33 Stanton Road.
Did you want to add any language for the order of conditions that's going to be?
Oh, coming from the Conservation Commission. Yeah, that should be boilerplate. Whenever anything is, if we don't have the order of conditions, we should include that in every decision. And we have 3, I think, tonight, where this one and the Powers one, and maybe both of them. No,
Yeah,
and
so maybe if you want to make the motion that we approve it
subject
as edited, then I can
Add
make
that
those
in.
changes and get them to Jen pretty shortly here.
Okay, I'd make that motion to approve the decision as edited, particularly with the Conservation Commission orders of conditions when they arrive. Okay,
I'll second that, Woody.
all right, moved and seconded. Woody Chidick, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Carl Dickinson, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Michael
Okay.
Dickey, aye.
Excellent, excellent. So we have, other than minutes, what I'd like to do though is just take a minute or two and make a couple of assignments for draft decisions. We have the 2, and I think they're really, well, they're not necessarily related, but the first one, which was the revetment, and the second one, which is a dock on 74 Beach, and then we have this decision on 10 Highland Court. I think I'm probably coming up. It's been a while since seems like a while. It's one of the 488 Jerusalem Road. I still wake up at night screaming, but I'm happy to do one of these.
I can do 10 Highland.
Okay,
Don't want to do a dock.
Hey, Woody, I'll do a dock.
All right.
Matt and I seem to be duking it out for the dock decision.
I know, and I mean,
Dave was the master, but now he's getting more and more challenging stuff to.
I like the docs are pretty simple and
Yeah.
straightforward. I can understand them, so that's why I'm like volunteering,
well, yeah, well, wait a minute. Yes, I'm sorry. That's the, no, 33 Stanton Road's been done. That we just voted on that. Is there another? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Doc. I got you. Okay, 74 Beach. So we'll put Mike down. And I'm happy to do the revetment. It's not much of a decision. Unless somebody else wants to volunteer. I mean, I don't really care. As a matter of fact, somebody do that, because I have an idea. I wouldn't mind doing the Chris Ford one, which is going to be complex. And because I'm retired, I can give it a little more time, but you'll have to wait a month or so.
the one thing I was gonna say is the revetment seems to go hand in hand with the dock, but I was a little scared when you said this was something you hadn't seen in a while, so.
Well,
Is there
I
like
don't know. It's just the construction of it. I don't think it's controversial in the least, is assuming that the Conservation Commission, this is still out at the Conservation Commission? He hasn't seen the order of conditions. He had a favorable sense, but unless they come in with a bombshell, I think it's a kind of a no-brainer.
I agree. I'm just, is there precedent out there that I could use? And I'm happy to do both if.
I'm trying to think, Jen, is there?
I mean, I like you, I'd never heard of a revetment, so I had to look it up. So we could just give a special permit, a simple special permit application or a decision. I could find one.
Yeah, Jen,
Oh,
if you
he
want.
cited one. I don't honestly remember it.
It was
I-
Bristol Road. I think it was the,
The Starvish.
yeah, the Starvish. I think that, remember they had to redo.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like 489 or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one, but he said it was vertical versus horizontal, but that was that part of our permitting? Because it was within the,
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was.
Because it
The other
was
one
a
I was wondering
structure.
about was like remember Joy Place, the cemetery? There was
That's
Yeah.
right. We did that one too.
something there that they kind of more or less had a retaining wall,
yes, yes.
Exactly. Jen, why don't you make a note, look at those two decisions. I don't think we need to bury Mike too much in paper, but I think one of them, maybe this Joy Place, is pretty pertinent.
I'll look at both and see what would be the most relevant.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Jen.
No problem.
Okay, so there we have it. Now we have, we're gonna let our town council go, but do you have any comments on the last hearing or anything that's available for public consumption? You can chastise me offline.
No, I think you guys do a good job of getting engaged and ask good questions. And I think you showed some restraint with respect to the 237 Hull Street one, because that to me was incomplete, to say the least, in
Yes.
a lot of ways.
That's kind. Yes. And I suspect that's going to go on for a couple of months because he's really got to figure out his options. Talk to the right people as opposed to maybe the not so right people. Particularly the DPW. I don't think they have much at stake here. So, okay, we'll try to respect the privilege of having you attend and not having you
Okay.
show up every time, particularly if it's a revetment or some such.
You don't get a revetment every day before
No,
ZBA, so.
but now we
hey.
have revetment. That's one I can check off in my, before I die.
Your bucket list is complete, right?
Yes. ZBA bucket list.
Uh,
Okay, well, thanks very much for attending. I really appreciate your presence and points of view. Frankly. very
Well,
much.
thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay,
Good night, folks.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
good night.
Bye-bye.
So do we want to approve the minutes as Jen sent out very quickly, like a day or two ago or something?
I did. I put them on Friday, but it was a pretty simple meeting. So
Anybody able to do any reading of it, edits, etc.?
I read it, but I thought it was accurate.
I added a couple of minor edits.
Okay, but subject
I'll
to the,
submit them to Jen.
yeah.
perfect.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes, subject to grammatical, syntax, and other small edits, if any.
I
So
second.
I made a motion to accept the minutes of August.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor, Woody Chitik, aye.
Lee Darst, aye.
Dave
Mike
McMorris,
Dickey,
aye.
aye.
Matt Watkins,
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, let's have a quiet meeting in October.
Yeah.
Jen, what do we have coming up in October?
One never knows, Lee. I thought we weren't going to have anything and we had 4 here. I have to talk to
There's a lady in the harbor.
the lady in the harbor.
Wasn't there somebody named Wynn?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forget that she's the harbor just because I've been looking at the house. So there's a small addition over on Border Street for they're just extending a nonconformity of the side setback and putting in a full bath for her grandmother so she doesn't have to go upstairs. The house is it's already exceeded coverage, so it would just be extending an already existing nonconformity, which is they have pretty good plans and it's already in. So I have that in advance. And then I have to speak to Rich Henderson about 508 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, which you approved a few years back, which is the auto dealer, about relocating one of the bays to a different building. I have to meet with him tomorrow on that. I don't know if he'll get that in on time.
The guy that, okay, who built the new garage?
Right, he had the
Peter-
storage shed and then they had the regular one. And then because of COVID, he has the same drainage in both, but he put one bay, one lift to work in another garage, and the water department is concerned. So it'd just be relocating that bay permanently to that location, keeping people separate. It happened during COVID,
Okay,
which we're still in, actually.
so that doesn't sound.
I don't know if he's gonna get it done on time because I'm meeting with him tomorrow and the deadline's tomorrow. So
Okay, the one down at the harbor could be a little tricky given the coverage issue, but let's see where that goes. I mean, that's nothing to decide here. Okay, so I
Okay.
will see you all in a month. I make a motion to adjourn.
Excellent.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chitik, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Okay,
Mike Dickey, aye.
great. Sorry,
Jen, any
Jen?
update on our meetings? Are they going to continue by Zoom or is there any plan
Oh,
to
yeah. Good point.
bring us in person?
I would say no with the numbers the way they are. You know, it's pretty stressful being in the office. We do have COVID in the office now, and so it's not a fun. So
Oh,
not a fun,
Jen.
yeah, it's not a fun place to go to work every day because we're wide open. So I don't understand it, but so I think until the numbers go down, we will stay remote for safety. But we would wear masks all day, so that does help. All municipal buildings have a mandate. So
Jen-
sorry.
Well,
Yes.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah, me too. Jen, have the appeals periods on Stasco's project and South Main both run without appeals?
Correct.
That's
Yes,
good.
they have. And I think they've both been filed with the Registry of Deeds as well.
Okay,
All right, my friends.
all right. We
I'll be in
will
touch.
See you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.